The shuttle screamed through the frozen atmosphere of Player 442 like metal wheel with broken wings. Dear Marcus Webb gripped his safety harness as Esma research vessels shook and rattled around him. The east storm outside the west worse than anything tail weather satellites predicted. Lightning cracked across the purple sky while chunks of east the boulders slammed into Tehui. "We were going down," Alex Turner shouted from the pilot's seat. His hands moved across the controls, but nothing seemed to work. The engines were failing and the navigation system showed only static. Everyone hold on. Kate Miller checked her equipment one more time. The xenobiology samples they collected from the surface were secured in tail containment units. 3 months of research work sat in those metal boxes. She hoped they would survive whatever was coming next. Tom Ayers was already preparing his medical kit, as the paramedic knew that crash landings usually meant injuries. He strapped his supplies to his chest and braced for impact. The shuttle hit the ground hard. Metal screamed against ice and rock. The vessel bounced twice before sliding sideways down a steep slope. Marcus felt his world spin as they tumbled through the snow. Equipment flew around the cabin. Sparks shot from dummy control panels. The lights went out. When everything finally stopped moving, Marcus opened his eyes. His head and warm blood ran down his face. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. The shuttle was tilted at a strange angle and snow was already piling up against the cracked windows. "Sound off?" he called out. His voice echoed in the dummy cabin. "I'm okay," Kate answered from somewhere behind him. She was climbing over fallen equipment. Her left arm on an angle, but she was moving. "Still breathing," Tom said. He was already checking himself for injuries. A the cut on his forehead was bleeding, but nothing seemed broken. Alex groaned from the pilot's seat. His right leg was trapped under a twisted piece of metal. "I think my leg is broken," he said through gritty teeth. "But I'm alive." Marcus unbuckled himself and stood on shaky legs. The suitless hood was cracked in several places and freezing air was pouring inside. The air heating system was making strange noises and would not last long in this cold. The communication equipment was completely destroyed. "We need shelter," he said. "This storm isn't going to stop anytime soon and Nora won't last a night." Tom was already working on a left leg. The bone was not broken, but the ankle was badly twisted. A rapid titan gave Alex something for the pain. "I can walk but not far," Tom reported. Kate was studying the readings on her scanner. The device was cracked but still working. "There is something strange about a kilometer north of here," she said. "The ground scanner is showing hollow passes underground. Maybe caves or old lava tubes." Marcus looked out through the broken windows. The storm was getting worse and the temperature was dropping fast. They had maybe 2 hours before the hypothermia became a real danger. "We take what we can carry and head for those caves," he decided. They gathered their survival gear quickly. Emergency food for a week. Water purification tablets. Thermal blankets. Portable heaters that run on battery power. Medical supplies. The most important scientific equipment that Kate insisted they needed. Everything went into waterproof backpacks. The walk through the storm was brutal. Wind could throw their protective suits like knives. Snow blew so hard they could barely see 3 meters ahead. Alex limped between Tom and Kate while Marcus led the way with the scanner. The scanner led them to what looked like a small hill covered in snow and ice. But when Marcus brushed away the frozen surface, he found something unexpected. Smooth stone that looked too regular to be natural. The scanner saw hollow passes directly below them. "This isn't a cave," Kate said as I examined the stone. "Look at these markings. Someone built this." The stone was covered with symbols that none of them recognized. Lines and curves that seemed to form patterns. The markings were old and weathered but still visible under the ice. Tom found what looked like an entrance. A rectangular opening in the stone that was partially blocked by fallen rocks and centuries of ice buildup. "We can get through here," he said, "but we have to dig." They worked together to clear the entrance. Their portable tools made quick work of the ice, but the rocks were heavy and hard to move. Alex helped as much as his injured ankle would allow. After an hour of digging, they had cleared a passage big enough to crawl through. Marcus went first with a flashlight. The passage led down into darkness, but there inside was warmer than outside. Not warm exactly, but not the killing cold of the storm. "It's safe?" he called back. Come on down. The passage open into a large underground chamber. Their flashlights reveal smooth walls covered with more of the strange symbols. The ceiling was again supported by columns that looked all perfectly natural. Everything was made from the same pale stone. Someone definitely built this place, Kate whispered. Her voice echoed strongly in the large space. But who? And when? Marcus was setting up their portable heaters. The battery-powered units could keep them going for a few days if they were careful with power. Right now, I don't care who built it, he said. I'm just glad they did. Tom was examining the walls with his medical scanner. The device could detect organic compounds and trace elements. These stones contain minerals you've never seen before, he reported. Very metal content, but in combinations that shouldn't be stable. They made a camp in the center of the chamber. The thermal blankets and heaters created a small warm space where they could rest and eat. Outside the storm continued to rage, but inside they were safe and relatively comfortable. Kate couldn't stop looking at the symbols on the walls. Her xenobiology training included some archaeology and test markings reminded her of writing systems, complex patterns that seem to tell stories or record information. I think this might be some kind of library or record keepers, I said. As they added their emergency rations, Alex noticed something strange about the chamber. Listen, he said quickly. Everyone stopped talking and focused on the sounds around them. The storm outside was muffled by the stone, but there was something else. A very faint humming sound that seemed to come from deeper in the structure. There is more to this place, Marcus realized. This chamber is used the entrance. Tom's scanner was detecting air currents that suggested larger spaces beyond the walls they could see. There are more passages, he confirmed, and the air down there is even warmer. After they had rested and warmed up, Marcus made the decision to explore further. They packed light and left most of their equipment at the campsite. The passage leading deeper into the structure was wider than the entrance, and the walls were decorated with more elaborate symbols. The humming sound got louder as they went deeper. It was not mechanical like a machine, but more musical like voices singing very softly. The temperature continued to rise and the breeze no longer made clouds in the air. The passage ended at a circular chamber much larger than the first. But this room was different. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that came from crystals embedded in the stone. The crystals pulsed gently like slow heartbeats and filled the chamber with shifting patterns of light and shadow. In the center of the chamber stood something that made them all stop and stare. A crystal formation that was clearly artificial, but beautiful beyond description. Transparent walls formed a perfect cylinder about 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide. Inside the crystal present something whited. It was a person but not human. Tall and slender with pale blue skin that seemed to glow with its own internal light. Long silver hair floated around a face that was both alien and somehow familiar. She wore clothing made from materials they did not recognize. Her eyes were closed and she appeared to be sleeping. "Is I alive?" Kate whispered. Tom probed the crystal cylinder carefully. His medical scanner was going crazy with readings I'd never seen before. "I'm detecting life signs," he said in amazement. "Weak but definitely there. Heart rate, brain activity, cellular metabolism. Se sin some kind of suspended animation." Marcus walked around the crystal formation looking for controls or access panels. The base of the cylinder was covered with the same symbols as in through the structure, but these were more complex and seemed to be arranged in specific patterns. "Look at this," Alex called out. It was pointing at the walls around the chamber. More symbols covered every surface, but this told a clear story in pictures and diagrams. Figures that looked like the sleeping woman working with tools and equipment. Images of space and stars and what might be other worlds. Kate was studying the pictographs with growing excitement. "I think it's not from this moon," she said. "These images show travel between worlds. Ships moving through space. This might be some kind of exploration base." The humming sound was coming from the crystal cylinder itself. As they watched the blue glow from the walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with the sound. The woman's bioluminescent markings flickered gently in response to the energy around her. Tom's scanner was providing more information about her condition. "Her body temperature is far below what should be survivable," he reported. "But her cellular structure is maintaining integrity somehow. This crystal formation is keeping her alive but used barely." Marcus was beginning to understand what they had found. An alien explorer preserved in some kind of stasis chamber. Someone who had been waiting here for who knew how long for rescue that never came. The storm that had crashed their shuttle had led them to the most important discovery in human history. But as I watched Tom's readings, I realized something troubling. The energy patterns from the crystal were becoming irregular. The soft humming was developing discordant notes. After thousands of years, the preservation system was finally beginning to fall. How long do I say, I asked. Tom checked his readings again and his face went pale. At this rate of irration, maybe a few days, he said quietly. The system that's keeping her alive is breaking down. Tom stared at his scanner readings and shook his head slowly. The numbers kept getting worse with each passing hour. The alien woman's life signs were weakening and the crystal chamber that had kept her alive for thousands of years was falling. I had seen similar patterns in human patients who were dying from hypothermia. Her core temperature is dropping, I told the others. The preservation system isn't generating enough gas anymore. If we don't do something soon, we were going to lose her. Marcus walked around the crystal cylinder again, looking for any kind of control panel or access point. The symbols at the base were glowing more dimly than before, and some sections had gone completely dark. Whatever technology had kept her alive was running out of power. Can we get her out of there? Kate asked. They were stuck in readings with her own equipment, and the energy patterns were clearly showing system failure. Maybe if we remove her from the chamber, we can help her with our medical equipment. Tom considered this, but his medical training told him it could be told on her own. She's been in stasis for who knows how long, he said. Her body isn't ready for normal temperature and atmosphere. If we pull her out too quickly, the so-called kill her instantly. Alex was studying the pictographs on the walls with growing understanding. The image she saw of the alien woman and others like her using various kinds of technology. But in the final picture, she was alone entering the crystal chamber while what looked like disaster struck around her. I think it's the last one, he said quietly. Look at these images. Something happened to her people and she put herself in this chamber as a last resort. The implications of what they have found were staggering. The fierce contact with alien life and was a single survivor of what appeared to be an extinct civilization. She had been waiting here alone for rescue that never came while civilizations rose and fell on distant worlds. Kate was examining the chamber more closely when she noticed something important. There are manual controls here, she said, pointing to a section of symbols that looked different from the others. These markings show hand positions. I think this is how to open the chamber. Tom immediately shook his head. We can't use to open it up, he insisted. She needs to be warmed gradually or her organs will shut down. Her body temperature is probably 30 degrees below what it should be. Rapid warming will cause more damage than the cold. Marcus was thinking about their limited resources. They had portable heaters, but those were designed to warm small spaces, not bring someone back from near the earth. Their medical supplies included warming blankets, but nothing that could handle this kind of extreme hypothermia. What if we don't open the chamber completely? Kate suggested. Maybe we can create a small opening that lets us help warm her while the preservation system continues to function. Tom was looking at his scanner readings again. The woman's cellular activity was slowing down and her brain function was becoming irregular. They had maybe 6 hours before the damage became irreversible. Even if we could do that, our heating equipment isn't powerful enough, he said. We need a heat source that can be precisely controlled and maintained for hours or maybe days. Alex was quiet for a moment as he thought about the situation. They were stranded on a frozen moon with limited supplies and no way to contact their ship. Their own survival was still uncertain and now they have found someone whose life depended on them making the right decisions. What about body heat? He said finally. Everyone turned to look at him. Human body temperature is 98.6 degrees. If her normal temperature is similar to ours, then our bodies could provide the kind of gradual control warming she needs. Tom considered this idea carefully. In extreme survival situations, humans use sheer body heat to treat hypothermia. Skin-to-skin contact under insulating blankets was actually more effective than artificial heating for gradual temperature recovery. It could work, he admitted, but would be taking a huge risk. The risk was not used to the alien woman. Direct contact with an unknown life form could expose them to diseases or toxins that human immune systems couldn't handle. They had no idea what kind of bacteria or viruses She meet carrier how her body chemistry might affect theirs. Kate was examining the chamber controls more carefully. I think he can figure out how to open a small section, she said. These symbols seem to show different configurations. If I'm reading this right, we can create an access panel without compromising the entire preservation system. Marcus was going their options. As mission commander, the decision was ultimately his to make. They could live here in the falling chamber and open the preservation system lasted until rescue arrived. But their own rescue was far from certain, and her system would probably fall before help came. There is something else to consider, Tom said quietly. If we try to save her and it don't take work, we could be stuck here with the alien body. That's going to raise a lot of questions when rescue finally arrives. Alex looked around at the ancient chamber with its glowing crystals and alien architecture. She's been waiting here alone for thousands of years, he said. Maybe long here. Her entire civilization is gone and she's the only one left. We can't use let her die because we're afraid of what might happen. Kate was studying the life support readings from her equipment. Our own situation isn't exactly stable either, she pointed out. The storm outside is getting worse and our power won't last forever. We're attacking risks by being here. Tom was running calculations in his head about how shared body could work. We don't need to take turns, he said. Probably two people at a team to maintain sufficient air transfer. 4 hours shifts around the clock. It could be exhausting and we'd have to maintain direct skin contact the entire team. Marcus thought about what this meant for their team. They would be committing all their resources and energy to saving someone they had never met and knew nothing about. Someone who might not even survive despite their efforts. But looking at the peaceful expression on the alien woman's face, I knew they had already made their choice. Says a person, he said simply. Whatever species she belongs to is clearly intelligent and has been waiting here longer than human civilization has existed. We have to try. Kate was working on the chamber controls to see her understanding of the symbol patterns. The markings seem to respond to touch and specific sequences cause different sections to glow. I think if I got it, she said. This should open an access panel without shutting down the preservation system. Tom was preparing his medical equipment. If they were going to do this, they needed to monitor her vital signs constantly and be ready for any complications. Once we opened that panel, there is no going back, he warned. We have be committed to seeing this through no matter what happens. Alex was gathering their thermal blankets and setting up a warming area next to the crystal chamber. Despite his injured ankle, was determined to help however he could. How do we even know this will work? He asked. What if her physiology is so different from ours? Kate had been studying the pictographs and alien symbols for hours. Look at these images, she said, pointing to detailed drawings on the walls. Her body structure looks very similar to human anatomy. Some basic proportions and organ placement. If her people evolved on a planet with similar conditions to Earth, then her temperature requirements may be closer to ours. Tom was checking his medical scanner readings one more time. The alien woman's vital signs were continuing to deteriorate and they were running out of time to make a decision. Her cellular structure is definitely carbon-based, he reported. The scanner is detecting proteins and genetic material that follow patterns similar to terrestrial life. We may be more compatible than we thought. Marcus made the final decision. We were going to try, the unknown said. Kate opened the access panel. To monitor her condition and be ready for anything. Alex and Nick will prepare the warming area. We were going to save her life for the train. Kate's hands moved carefully over the chamber controls. The symbols responded to her touch and began to glow in new patterns. There was a soft hissing sound as the preservation system adjusted to the new configuration. A rectangular section of the crystal wall became transparent and then slowly dissolved away. Color rushed out of the chamber, carrying a strong sweet scent like flowers mixed with ozone. The alien woman remained motionless, but now they could reach inside and make direct contact. Her skin looked pale and almost translucent with faint blue markings that seemed to pulse with her slow heartbeat. Tom reached in carefully and placed his scanner against her arm. Her skin was cold but soft and definitely alive. Temperature is 68 degrees, reported. That's 70 degrees below normal human temperature. Her pulse is weak but steady and brain activity is minimal but present. Marcus was stripping off his outer clothing and wrapping himself in thermal blankets. The plan was simple but would require total commitment from all of them. They will take turns maintaining skin-to-skin contact to gradually warm her body while the preservation system continues to provide life support. Remember, Tom said as Marcus prepared to make fierce contact. Slow and steady warming. If her temperature rises too quickly, could cause cardiac arrest or brain damage. We need to increase her body up by maybe 2 degrees per hour. No faster. Marcus took a deep breath and reached into the chamber. When his skin touched hers, he felt how cold she really was. Like touching ice that had been frozen for centuries. But underneath the cold field, the fan flutter of life still fighting to survive. He wrapped his arms around her carefully and pulled her as close to his body as the chamber would allow. The thermal blankets went around both of them, creating a cocoon of shared warmth. It was the most intimate contact possible with a complete stranger from another world. Here we go, a whisper. Marcus held the alien woman closer to his chest and felt her body slowly absorbing his warmth. Her skin was still icy cold, but after an hour of contact, a cold feel the faintest change in temperature. The thermal blankets wrapped around them both created a cocoon that trapped his body at and directed it toward her. Tom monitored her vital signs constantly with his medical scanner. Temperature is up to 70 degrees, he reported quietly. Heart rate is getting slightly stronger. Brain activity is still minimal but showing some improvement. The preservation chamber continued to function around the access panel Kate had opened. The soft blue glow from the crystal spells in rhythm with the alien woman's heartbeat and the humming sound became more musical and less mechanical. Whatever technology kept her alive was adapting to their intervention. Kate was studying the pictographs on the chamber walls while Marcus worked. The images seemed to tell a story about the alien woman and her people. Look at this section, she whispered, pointing to a series of detailed drawings. I think her name may be represented by this symbol here. It looks like flowing water or maybe music. Alex was preparing to take the next sip. Despite his injured ankle, he insisted on helping with the warming process. How long do we keep this up? Asked Tom. Hours or days? Tom checked his readings again. The alien woman's condition was improving but very slowly. At this rate, probably 3 or 4 days to get her to a safe temperature, he said. Maybe long here if there are complications. We need to be patient and not rush the process. Marcus could feel her breathing against his chest. It was shallow and slow, but definitely getting stronger. Her skin was starting to feel less like touching ice and more like touching a person who was very cold. The blue markings along her arms and neck were becoming brighter as her circulation improved. "She's beautiful," he said softly. Despite being from another world, she looked remarkably human. Tall and slender with delicate features and long silver hair that felt like silk. Her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed natural rather than from cold, and the bioluminescent markings followed patterns that looked almost like artwork. After 4 hours, Marcus was exhausted from maintaining the warming position. His body had addressed her temperature by almost 3 degrees, but it was getting too tired to continue softly. "Time to switch," he said reluctantly. Alex took his place, carefully wrapping his arms around the alien woman and pulling the thermal blankets tight around them both. She was noticeably warmer than when Marcus had started, but still dangerously cold. Alex could feel her heart beating more steadily against his chest. Kate continued studying the wall pictographs while the men took turns warming their patient. The story seemed to show a thriving civilization of explorers and scientists who traveled between worlds. But the final image saw a disaster and evacuation with only a few individuals escaping to distant locations. "I think she was part of a research expedition," Kate said. These pictures show her studying the crystalline formations we found throughout the structure. Maybe she was a geologist or engineer studying the mineral compositions here. Tom was fascinated by the alien woman's physiology as revealed by his medical scanner. Her cellular structure is remarkably similar to human biology, he reported. Some are basic organ systems and metabolic processes. But there are differences that suggest adaptation to different environmental conditions. The bioluminescent markings on her skin were becoming more active as her body temperature rose. They pulsed in complex patterns that seemed to respond to her heartbeat and breathing. Tom's scanner detected electrical activity in the markings that suggested they might serve some biological function. They could be a form of communication, Kate suggested when Tom described the electrical readings. Bioluminescent displays are common in Earth's species for signaling and social interaction. Maybe here people communicated through light patterns as well as sound. After 12 hours of continuous warming, the alien woman's temperature had risen to 76 degrees. Still dangerously low but within a range where her organs could function more normally. Her breathing was deeper and her heart rate stabilized at what seemed to be normal level for her species. Kate told the next shift and was surprised by how natural it felt to hold someone from another world. The alien woman felt warm and alive in her arms and her breathing was steady and peaceful. The blue markings on her skin cast faint patterns of light inside their shared blankets. "She's dreaming," Kate observed. The alien woman's eyes were moving beneath closed lids and her facial expressions were changing sadly. Sometimes she seemed peaceful and other times troubled. Her lips occasionally moved as if she was trying to speak. Tom's scanner was detecting increased brain activity that definitely suggested dream status. Her neural patterns look very similar to human REM sleep, said with amazement. If she's dreaming, then her brain is processing information and memories used like ours though. Marcus was resting back watching the alien woman's face carefully. "What do you think she's dreaming about?" Egg wondered. "The last memories before she went into stasis? Her people? Her home world?" The alien woman made soft sounds in her sleep that almost sounded like singing. The notes were musical and haunting and seemed to resonate with the humming from the preservation chamber. Kate found the sounds beautiful and strangely comforting. "Listen to that," Alex said during his second shift. "It's like she's singing lullabies in her sleep. The melody is completely alien but somehow familiar at the same time." As the hours passed, the team settled into their routine of 4-hour shifts. Each person cuddled the alien woman closer while wrapped in thermal blankets and monitored her condition while the others rested or explored more of the ancient structure. It was exhausting work but also strangely intimate. Tom was amazed by how quickly her body was responding to the warming treatment. "Her metabolism is accelerating as her temperature rises," he reported. "Cellular activity is approaching normal levels and her immune system seems to be activating. She's definitely getting stronger." On the second day, her temperature reached 80 degrees and she began to show signs of returning consciousness. Her breathing became more regular and her facial expressions more active. The bioluminescent markings on her skin were now pulsing in complex patterns that seemed almost like a visual language. Kate was holding her when the alien woman first tried to open her eyes. The eyelids fluttered several times before staying partially open. Her eyes were large and completely black without visible iris or pupil, but they seemed to focus on Kate's face with obvious intelligence. "Hello," Kate whispered softly. "We're here to help you. You're safe now." The alien woman's lips moved but no sound came out. Her eyes looked confused and frightened as she tried to understand where she was and who was holding her. The preservation chamber around them was still glowing but humming a chant to a more complex musical pattern. Tom quickly moved his scanner over her head and neck. "Brain activity is spiking," he reported excitedly. "She's definitely conscious and aware. Neural patterns suggest trying to process sensory information and probably attempting to communicate." The alien woman tried to lift her hand but was too weak to move very much. Kate gently took her hand and squeezed reassuringly. The alien woman squeezed back quickly but definitely intentionally. Her first conscious act was to return a gesture of comfort and connection. "She understands," Marcus said with wonder. "She knows we're trying to help her." The alien woman's eyes moved from face to face, studying the edge of the humans who had saved her life. Her expression showed confusion but also gratitude and curiosity. She tried to speak again and this time managed to produce soft musical sounds that were clearly attempts at communication. Kate found herself responding instinctively to the alien woman's vocalizations. She hummed back in similar tones and was rewarded with what looked like a smile. The alien woman's face brightened and the bioluminescent markings on her skin pulsed in what seemed like a pleased pattern. "Se extraño tanto ese," Alex realized. The alien woman was making gestures with her weak hands that looked like she was indicating the human's hand and touching her own chest over her hair. The meaning was clear even without shared language. Tom's reading showed her temperature had reached 84 degrees and was still rising steadily. "We're almost there," he said with relief. "Another day or two and she should be warm enough to function normally. Her body is responding better than it hoped." The alien woman seemed to understand that it was getting better. She looked at the humans with obvious appreciation and tried to communicate more complex ideas through gestures and musical sounds. She pointed to herself and made a series of notes that made a in her name. Kate tried to repeat the sounds, and the alien woman nodded encouragingly. Lyra, Kate seducing the closest human pronunciation. Is that your name? The alien woman smiled again and repeated sounds more clearly. It did sound like Lyra or something very similar. She then pointed to a human with questioning expressions, clearly asking for their names in return. Marcus introduced himself first, speaking slowly and clearly. The alien woman listened carefully and tried to repeat the sounds. Her pronunciation was strange but recognizable. She did the same with each of their names, practicing until she could say them well enough to be understood. By the third day, Lyra was strong enough to sit up with assistance, and her temperature had reached normal human levels. She was still weak and needed help with basic movements, but her eyes were bright and alert. The warming process had been successful beyond their best hopes. Tom was amazed by her recovery. Her physiology adapted to the warming faster than a human could have, and marveled. Her species must be incredibly resilient to survive what's been through. Lyra seemed fascinated by everything around her, especially the humans who had saved her life. She studied their faces and clothing and equipment with obvious scientific curiosity. She made questioning sounds and gestures about their technology and seemed eager to learn about them. Kate had been working on basic communication using pictures and simple gestures. Lyra was remarkably quick to understand concepts and seemed to have an intuitive grasp of what the humans were trying to tell her. She drew her own pictures in responses showing images of stars and planets and what might have been her home world. The preservation chamber again completely quiet now that Lyra was no longer dependent on it for survival. The blue crystals still glowed softly, but the humming had stopped. Whatever ancient technology had kept her alive for thousands of years had finally completed its purpose. Lyra sat up slowly with Kate's help and looked around the crystal chamber with wide dark eyes. Her body was still weak from thousands of years in stasis, but her mind seemed sharp and alert. She pointed to the glowing walls and made musical sounds that clearly meant questions about where she was and what had happened. Kate drew simple pictures in the dust on the chamber floor to try to explain their situation. She drew their crash shuttle and the storm outside and then pointed to the humans and made gestures to show how they had found her. Lyra watched carefully and nodded with understanding. Tom was fascinated by how quickly she was learning to communicate with them. Her intelligence level is remarkable, he observed. She's picking up our gestures and expressions faster than most humans would in a similar situation. Lyra tried to stand, but her legs were too weak to support her weight. Marcus quickly moved to help her and was surprised by how light she felt. Her bone structure seemed more delicate than human anatomy, but also somehow stronger. She leaned against him gratefully and made soft sounds that clearly meant thank you. The bioluminescent markings on her skin were now glowing steadily in complex patterns that seemed to change with her motions. When she looked at the humans who had saved her, the patterns were warm and bright. When she looked at the preservation chamber where she had spent so long alone, the patterns became dim and sad. Kate continued working on basic communication by pointing to objects and saying their names in English. Lyra repeated each word carefully and seemed to mimic them instantly. Within hours, she could identify most of their equipment and basic concepts like food and water and worms. Water, Lyra said, clearly pointing to their water containers. Her pronunciation was getting better with practice, and her voice had a musical quality that made even simple words sound like singing. She looked at their emergency rations with curiosity and made questioning sounds. Tom offered her a small piece of their concentrated food. She examined it carefully before tasting it, and her face was surprised at the flavor. She made appreciative sounds and ate the entire portion eagerly. Her body clearly needed nutrition after such a long time without food. Alex was studying the pictographs on the chamber walls with new understanding now that they could observe Lyra directly. Look at these images, he said, pointing to detailed drawings of figures that looked exactly like her. I think this whole structure was built by her people as some kind of research station. Lyra followed his gaze to the wall paintings, and her expression became sad and distant. She made a series of musical sounds that sounded like mourning or grief. Then she pointed to herself and held up one finger, clearly indicating that she was alone. Kate put her arm around Lyra's shoulders comfortingly. The alien woman leaned into the embrace and made soft sounds that needed no translation. She was the last survivor of her people and had been alone in stasis while her entire civilization disappeared from the universe. Marcus was examining other sections of the pictographs that showed what looked like star maps and planetary systems. Can you show us where you come from? Asked Lira while pointing to the astronomical drawings. Lira stood carefully and walked to the wall with Kate's support. She pointed to a specific star pattern in the pictographs and then gestured upward toward the sky. Her expression was longing and hopeful as she saw still some possibility of finding other survivors. Tom's medical scanner was detecting fascinating details about her biology as she moved around the chamber. Her muscle density is different from humans, a reported. Lower gravity adaptation probably. Her bone structure suggests she evolved on a world with about 60% of Earth's gravitational pull. Lyra was trying to learn more complex concepts now. She pointed to the humans and made questioning sounds while gesturing to indicate she wanted to know about their origins. Kate drew pictures showing her son's spaceship and the journey to this moon. The alien woman studied the drawings with obvious scientific interest. She made excited sounds and drew her own pictures showing similar concepts but with different technology. Her people had also been space travelers and explorers who journeyed between worlds. Ship, Lyra said carefully pointing to Kate's drawing of their vessel. Then she drew her own version which looked much more advanced with smooth curves and what might have been energy propulsion systems. She pointed to her drawing and then to herself indicating it was how she arrived here. Alex was beginning to piece together the story told by the pictographs combined with Lyra's reactions and drawings. I think her people were explorers like us, he said. They came here to study the crystal formations and mineral deposits. But something happened to their homeworld while she was conducting research. Lyra nodded sadly when she heard this and made a long series of musical sounds that clearly told a story of disaster and loss. She drew pictures of what looked like a star exploding or going nova. Then she drew smaller pictures showing evacuation ships fleeing in different directions. Kate understood the tragedy immediately. A solar flare of supernova destroyed their home system, she said with sympathy. The evacuation ship scattered to different worlds, but she was too far away to be rescued. She put herself in the preservation chamber, hoping someone would eventually find her. Tom calculated the implications of what they were learning. If her star went nova thousands of years ago, then she's been waiting here alone on her than human civilization has existed, he realized. She might be the only living representative of her entire species. Lyra seemed to understand the sympathy and appreciation for her situation. She made gestures of gratitude toward each of them, and tried to express through her limited English vocabulary how much their rescue meant to her. The words I had learned were not adequate for such complex emotions, but her meaning was clear. Thank you, she said carefully. Thank you for worms. Thank you for life. She touched her chest over her heart and then reached out to touch each of their hands. The bioluminescent markings on her skin glowed brightly with what could only be described as joy and gratitude. Marcus was moved by her obvious appreciation for what they had done. Anyone would have helped you, he said gently. But even as he said it, he wondered if that was really true. They had risked their own lives and safety to save a complete stranger from another world. Lyra seemed to understand the significance of their choice better than they did themselves. She made a series of sounds and gestures that clearly indicated she knew they had put themselves in danger to save her. She drew pictures showing them sharing their body at and made the sounds of amazement and gratitude. Kate was working on teaching her more complex vocabulary so they could communicate better. Friend, she said pointing to herself and then to Lyra. We are friends. Lyra repeated the word carefully and then made a long hair sound in her own language that seemed to mean the same thing. She pointed to all four humans and repeated both words indicating that she considered them as friends despite having just met them. The concept of friendship seemed very important to her. She made additional sounds and gestures that suggested her people had a cultural appreciation for kindness between different groups. The wall pictograph showed her species interacting peacefully with other alien races they had encountered in their explorations. Tom was studying her bioluminescent markings more carefully as they changed with her motions. I think the light patterns are definitely a form of communication, he concluded. They seem to reflect her internal state and maybe convey information to others of her species. Lyra noticed his interest in her markings and made sounds while pointing to the patterns on her skin. She demonstrated how they could change brightness and color and rhythm. Then she pointed to the humans and made questioning sounds about why their skin did not glow. Kate tried to explain the differences between their species using simple words and drawings. Lira listen carefully and seem fascinated by the concept that there could be intelligent life with such different biology. She examined the skin and hair and clothing with scientific curiosity. Different but same inside. Lira said slowly trying to express a complex idea with her limited vocabulary. She pointed to her art and to theirs indicating that despite physical differences they share the same essential nature. Alex was impressed by her philosophical understanding. She gets it, he said with admiration. She understands that intelligence and compassion are more important than what species you belong to. Lira was getting stronger as they and Cole now walk around the chamber without assistance. She spent hours studying the pictographs and seemed to be remembering more details about her people and their history. Sometimes she would make long musical speeches while pointing to specific images. Marcus wished they could understand more of what she was trying to tell them. He thinks she's reciting the history of her civilization. I guess these pictographs are like a library or museum and she's explaining what they mean. Kate had an idea for better communication. She found a flat section of wall and began drawing more complex pictures while teaching Lira additional English words. Soon they created a basic visual dictionary that allowed for more sophisticated conversations. Using their shared vocabulary and pictures, Lira was able to explain more about her people. They adventured yet something that sounded like Kitara and they were primarily scientists and explorers. Their culture valued knowledge and discovery above conquest or territorial expansion. Peace people, Lira said using words I had learned to describe her species. Study stars and worlds. Help other people learn. She drew pictures showing her people sharing technology and knowledge with other alien races they had encountered. Tom realized the incredible opportunity they had been given. She represents an entire civilization of advanced scientists, he said with excitement. Think of what we could learn from her knowledge and experience. But Lira seemed more interested in learning about humans than in sharing her own technology. She asked constant questions about Earth and human culture and seemed amazed by stories of human cooperation and kindness. She was particularly fascinated by the concept that humans would risk their lives to help strangers. Why sabe me? She asked using her growing English vocabulary. I am different. I am not human. Why use you to make me laugh? Kate tried to explain the human concept of universal compassion and the value of an intelligent life. But Lira seemed to understand something deeper about human nature that even the humans themselves didn't fully recognize. Humans warm inside, she said pointing to their arts. Warm like a star. Sare warms with everyone. Make all universe warm with kindness. Her words carried a wisdom that came from observing them sabe her life when they had no obligation to do so. She has seen humanity at its best and recognized something special about their willingness to sacrifice for others. The rescue ship appeared in the sky above the frozen moon 7 days after they had found Lira under the snow. Marcus saw the familiar outline of the heavy transport vessel through the storm and felt relief was over him. They had survived the crash and saved an alien life in the process. Lira watched the ship descend with wonder and curiosity. She had never seen human technology in operation before and was fascinated by their methods of flight and propulsion. Beautiful ship, she said in her musical voice. Humans build well. Kate was packing their equipment and scientific samples while Tom prepared Lira for the journey to the rescue vessel. Her health had improved dramatically, but she was still weak from her long time in stasis. The warming process has saved her life, but full recovery would take much longer. Alex was documenting everything they had learned about the ancient structure and Lira's people. The pictographs on the walls told the story of an entire civilization and represented knowledge that could advance human understanding by centuries. This discovery changes everything, he said with excitement. But Lira seemed more interested in the humans than in preserving her own people's history. She had spent the past few days studying their behavior and asking questions about human culture and society. Her conclusions about humanity were both profound and humbling. Your people are special, she told Marcus while they waited for the rescue team to reach them. I studied many races in my travels. Never find people who share worms with strangers. Never find people who risk life for unknown person. Marcus tried to explain that helping others was natural for humans, but Lira shook her head. No, she said firmly. It's rare gift. Most intelligent species help only family or tribe. Humans help anyone who needs help. Very rare in universe. The rescue team arrived with medical equipment and additional supplies. They were amazed to find the research team alive and healthy after such a violent crash. Vad ter mas menturnet to soak when they saw Lyra standing beside them. Captain Red of the rescue ship stared at the alien woman with disbelief. Is that what I think it is? Asked Marcus quietly. Are you telling me you found living alien life? Tom stepped forward with his medical reports. Her name is Lyra and is a survivor of an advanced civilization that was destroyed thousands of years ago, he explained. We found her in a preservation chamber and managed to revive her using emergency warming techniques. The rescue team medic examined Lyra with professional curiosity while she studied him with equal interest. She submitted to the medical test with cooperation and seemed fascinated by human medical technology. Her biology was similar enough to human that their equipment could monitor her vital signs effectively. Captain Red was already thinking about the implications of first contact with alien intelligence. This is going to create catastrophic back on Earth, he said. The Science Council and the military are going to want to debrief everyone involved. Lyra seemed to understand that her presence would cause significant changes for the humans. She made concerned sounds and gestured questions about whether her rescue would cause problems for the team that assaulted her. Pedro assured her that they were all happy to have found her and that humans would be excited to meet their first alien friend. But privately, she worried about how Earth's governments and institutions would react to proof of alien intelligence. The journey back to the rescue ship was difficult for Lyra, who had never experienced human transportation technology. The shuttle rhythm made her feel sick, and artificial gravity was different from what her body expected. Tom stayed with her and helped her adjust to the new sensations. During the flight to the mine ship, Lyra asked many questions about human space travel and exploration. She was impressed by the engineering and seemed surprised that such a young civilization had already begun exploring other worlds. Humans move fast, I observed. My people take many generations to travel between stars. Humans do in few years what we do in centuries. Very impressive progress. Marcus explained that humans were naturally curious and driven to explore and discover new things. Lyra nodded with understanding and said that her people advanced similar when the civilization was young. Aboard the rescue ship, Lyra was given her own quarters and access to human databases, so she could learn more about Earth and human culture. She spent hours studying human history and seemed particularly interested in examples of humans helping strangers and showing kindness to others. Captain Red interviewed the H member of the research team about their experiences with Lyra and the circumstances of her rescue. He was particularly interested in their decision to risk their own lives to save an unknown alien life form. What made you decide to use a body to warm her? He asked Marcus. That was an extremely dangerous choice with no guarantee of success. Marcus thought about the question carefully. She was saying, simply, we couldn't use let her die when we might be able to help. It didn't matter that she was from another species. She was a person who needed help. Captain Ren noted that all four team members gave essentially the same answer. They accepted Lyra because it was the right thing to do regardless of risk or personal cost. Their decision represented something fundamental about human nature. Lyra requested a meeting with all the humans who had rescued her before. They reached theirs. She had something important she wanted to tell them about her decision regarding her future. "I must choose what to do now," she explained when they gathered in the ship's conference room. "I could try to find the survivors of my people. Could search galaxy for remnants of Kitara civilization. But I choose different paths." She looked at each of them with her large dark eyes and the bioluminescent markings on her skin glow with glowing patterns. "I choose to stay with humans," Seanon said. "Want to learn more about people who started wars with strangers. Want to help humans learn about universe." Tom was amazed by her decision. "You were willing to give up searching for your own people to stay with us?" He asked. "We ran, but are you sure that's what you want?" Lyra nodded firmly. "My people gan long time. Maybe few survivors somewhere but universe very big. More important to stay with people who show true kindness. Humans special and deserve help to grow and learn." Kate realized the magnitude of what Lyra was offering. An alien scientist from an advanced civilization was choosing to share her knowledge with humanity simply because she had been impressed by their compassion and willingness to help others. Alex understood the implications for human development. Her knowledge could advance our technology by hundreds of years, said with excitement. Medicine, engineering, space travel, energy production. She could help us solve problems we don't even know we have yet. Vad lira was more interested in helping humans understand their own unique nature. Humans think they ordinary, they said. Think an intelligent life some inside. But humans different. Humans gorm in was other species not gorm. Marcus asked what she meant by that. Lira struggled to find the right English words for such complex concepts, but finally managed to explain her perspective. Most species help only family or group, they said. Survival instinct is strong. But humans different. Humans help anyone who needs help even if dangerous. Even if stranger. Even if alien from different world. She pointed to the 4 researchers who have saved her life. Use her body at with alien person. Risk death from cold. Risk sickness from unknown biology. Risk trouble from authorities. But you do anyway because the right thing to do. Captain Reg was beginning to understand why Lyra chosen to stay with humanity. She had witnessed something rare in the universe and wanted to be part of it. When they reached there, the news of fierce contact with alien intelligence created worldwide excitement. But Lyra insisted that her interviews and public appearances include the 4 researchers who had saved her life. She wanted the universe to know about human compassion and sacrifice. Her fierce official statement to Earth's governments and media was simply but profound. I am Lyra of the Kitara people, she said in her musical voice. It was lost and dying and there is no one this for thousands of years. Humans found me and shared their worms to save my life. She looked directly into the cameras that broadcast her words across the world. They could have left me frozen. Could have taken my technology and left me to the air. Instead, you set their own bodies to warm me back to life. This is why I choose to live among humans and help them grow. The story of her rescue became a legend throughout human space. 4 ordinary researchers who had risked everything to save a stranger from another world. Their actions against humanity their first alien ally and changed the course of human history. Lyra established research partnerships with Earth universities and began sharing selected knowledge from her people's civilization. But she always insisted that humanity's greatest achievement was not technological advancement but the capacity for kindness towards strangers. Years later, when other alien species made contact with humanity, they often mentioned hearing about the humans who had shared their body to save a dying alien. Lyra's story spread through the galaxy and established humanity's reputation as a species that valued an intelligent life. In her private moments, Lyra often thought about those fierce days when she had awakened to find the strange beings holding her close and sharing their wounds. She had been alone in the cold darkness for millennia, but humans had brought her back to life and light. They found me under the snow. They could tell visitors who came to learn about human nature. They could have left me there frozen and forgotten. Instead, they gave me their tante rope. If this is what humans offer to strangers, imagine what they will offer to friends. The universe in the event forever changed by humanity's presence, and it had started with 4 people who chose to share their wounds with someone who needed it.